So, my name is Yvonne Gwam, Yvonne Gwam. Sorry, I'm either Yvonne or Yvonne, but professionally people know me as Yvonne. So sometimes I have to switch to remind myself who I am. Yes, but like Faustina said, I'm happy to be here today. I have come for these events twice, and I just come in, listen, and go, and then all of a sudden, I was approached, and I was like, oh, okay, and this thing about, can I, or no, struggle with it, but people see me, I say, she must be so confident. I am on the outside, but sometimes I doubt myself. So what we're having today is quite useful. And when she approached me, I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I didn't let myself think about it quickly, because maybe I might think about it, and I'll talk myself out of it. So I just responded, and I'm here today. So yeah, thank you so much. I've been HR for over 20 years. I've worked in both the public sector and the private sector. Worked in the NHS, I was speaking to you earlier on. Worked in the civil service, worked in council, then I've worked in the private sector. So I've gathered experience along the way. And this topic is actually close to my heart. And I was so glad when you gave it to me, and I hope I do justice to it today. Okay, so just the topic, start with the first one, please. We can go back a bit. Okay. So what I was doing, creating inclusive leadership, exploring how women of colour in leadership can foster more inclusive and equitable environment for others. It's so important, actually, in the world we are today. You know, how we can create inclusive leadership. I'm passionate about inclusive leadership because I think that's really important. I think that's where you make the most impact, that make the difference. So before we look into that, what is leadership? So I've got two titles here. Mackenzie defines leadership as a set of mindsets and behaviors that align people in a collective direction, enables them to work together and accomplish shared goals, and helps them to adjust to changing environment. I want you to think about and focus on the words people, enable them to work together, and shared goals. Then the Center of Creative Leadership, CCL, defines leadership as a social process that enables individuals to work together to achieve results that they could never achieve working alone. So we see the working together here. We see the thing about people. It's not about processes, it's all about people, how we're working together. And that's what leadership is about. Okay, we're talking about leadership. Sometimes, I think in the world today, people make mistake about leadership and management. There's a difference. What leadership and management. So, next slide, please. Leadership and management. And so, leadership management focuses on systems, processes, and control. You know, when you're a manager, it's about this process, about what policy in the HR, for example, what policy you're following, what policy needs to go with that, and what processes do we have in place. But when it comes to leadership, you're focusing on people. You're focusing on the purpose. You're focusing on transformation. You know, the transformation of people, moving them from one to another. So the difference with leadership and management is leadership is all about people. And management is all about processes. And today, as we talk about leadership, it's one of the things we need to remember. We're talking about people, we're talking about leading people. We're not talking about leading processes, because when it becomes processes, that's management. Okay? Next slide, please. Thank you. So I thought I'd put in some figures in the HR here. When we do the things, we also work with our stats here. Something interesting I found that when I was preparing for this is that in the FTSE Women Leaders Review 2025, 43% of FTSE 350 board roles are held by women. Okay, which is actually an increase. In 2015, I think it was as low as 30, I think 20-something percent. And 35% of senior leadership roles are held by women. Okay, good stats and everything. But the interesting bit for me is there's no publicly available percentage for black women in leadership roles in the UK. So the FTSE Women Leaders Review does not disaggregate data by both race. So what they've done is race and gender is all together. And I was thinking, wow, with all the, the black women we have. So they haven't it hasn't felt appropriate to be able to separate women, black women, and have so that we can have them. But I just thought it was interesting data, and I was thinking, but to myself, I'm thinking something has to happen here. But I just thought I'd bring this data in. It's just interesting data to know. Okay, next slide, please. So we've talked about leadership, what leadership is, what management is, and we've given you some figures here. And then the topic for today is about inclusive leadership. What does inclusive leadership feel like? The inclusive leadership is about value-led, equity-driven, and psychological safety. Inclusive leadership is not about, nice to have. It's a must-have. It's something that we should have. Shouldn't be something that will be on the list. It's something that we should have. And it's about creating spaces where people feel seen, heard, and valued. Black women, like I said, remain underrepresented in the UK leadership. No disability data exists to track the progress. But one of the things that I think, one of the questions I want to ask actually is, I've got to wear my glasses. What does inclusion look like in your world? Is it psychological safety? Is it equity and promotion? Or what does, when you think about leadership, what does it look like in your own world? Anybody? What do you think?
In terms of organization, in the workplace, for me, should be more of safety.
Yeah.
My safe here. I remember working in one of the organizations I worked with. I was the only black person there, and oftentimes when people are talking, they don't include you in what is being said. So after a time, start feeling they're talking about you, and you start feeling uncomfortable. And you look around. When you look and you want to get involved, everybody shifts.
Yeah.
And then decisions are made where you're supposed to be part of that decision, and you're not included. And then you're being told, even by your junior, you're like, "How is my junior knowing this and I'm not there when the decision was made?" But your name is there as a leader. So that for me is more about safety, and that safety means psychologically you are safe in that environment to make decisions and to be part of decision making.
Yeah, and I think it's really, really important to me. Psychological safety is important. You want to feel safe in that environment. You want to be heard. You want to be listened to. So I don't know. Thanks for that. Is there anybody else? What does inclusion look like in your own world? Inclusion leadership. What does it look like?
It means, inclusivity for me, it really is about including everyone, but the foundation stone has to be integrity, because you've got leaders that are inclusive but exclusive at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So when we talk about inclusive, it has to be all in.
Yeah.
It's not, inclusive one way and then exclusive another way. It has to be all in. Oh, that's interesting. Anybody else?
See, I feel that it is one of the aberrations of our time. We are saying inclusion, by right, everybody's a leader.
Yeah.
You understand? So you can't just, you are breathing the same quantity of oxygen I'm breathing, and you're saying you have to include me. When I have my ears, I have my feet, I have everything. So it's not supposed to have inclusive, because it has to be everybody, because if you're a human being, we have a common denominator there. So it's like taking a child something and then giving it to the child. It doesn't really make sense to me, but that's the reality of life we're seeing here. Because what I'm saying, that inclusive is not supposed to be what we're supposed to have. It has to be, you don't need to be included because you're already a leader.
Yeah.
So you're already who you are. So you don't need to, but sadly, we find it in leadership.
So another thing I tell my staff is, and thanks for that, is I am as strong as my team. I am as strong as the people that make it up. And what does that mean? Basically, it's not just what I say. It's not okay because I say to them. It's not about you do this. No, they have knowledge that I might not have.
Yeah.
So include them. So I'm as strong as my team as they are. So inclusivity, being inclusive, means you're even though you might be the leader, but includes everybody else. Everybody has something to say. So so that's quite one. Thanks for that, guys.
Also, Prime
Yeah.
Minister, the good
Yeah, go on.
leader should give the opportunity, like you said, you're including them, but you're giving them the opportunity to air their opinion. You might not necessarily use it, but like you said, you learn from it,
Yeah.
and then you can improve on what you're doing as a team.
Yeah, and that's the difference between a leader and a manager. And it's so. And I think another thing that we need to know is that you have to. You said that about leading yourself. Wait, if you know how to lead yourself, you will know how to lead people. That's so important. You have to know that. And that's the difference between a leader and a manager. A manager is about process. So you do this, whatever it is. Exactly. So thanks for that. So inclusive leadership. So what does inclusive leadership? So now we're talking about the power of lived experience. So as an inclusive leader, the power of the lived experience is so important. Lived experience is not a liability; it's an asset. And one thing that Black women have is that power of lived experience. We have so much lived experience because we have to have resilience. We have to have, as a Black woman, that resilience, or whatever they mean, resilience in the home, resilience in society. So our power of lived experience is so important. Our lived experience is not a liability, it's a leadership asset. Don't let anybody tell you any different. As Black women, we navigate systems through a unique lens because we're unique. Our experiences are unique, where we've come from, where we're going to. So let us always see it as a plus. Let's see it as, something that gives us that strength. We understand.
An asset.
An asset, yes. We understand exclusion. Black women, you see, number one, we're women. You said that, well, being women, and then we're Black. So it's that doubled this thing. So we understand exclusion, we understand resilience and innovation in ways others don't. I love it where Faustina tells her daughter, "You are beautiful, you're intelligent, you're everything." It's that power of that Black woman where, look, I need to make sure my daughter knows that she's beautiful and she's intelligent. Before anybody tells her any different, I'm going to be telling her. And it's that power of, that unique that power lived experience. That's what you're using. Telling her, making her know, before she goes out there, I'm going to impact on her. I'm going to make that difference. I'm going to make sure that my lived experience makes a difference for her. So and that is so important in inclusive leadership. It's even in the workplace, and then even if you're not leading people at work, you can be leading people in your community. You can be leading people, at home. So it's just remembering that power of lived experience is so important. And just know that it's an asset. It's something going, okay. And then even when we do this, inclusive leadership is so important. Even when we take it ahead with us. But one of the things we know is there are barriers, there are biases. And this is one thing, in the 20 years of major leadership, one thing I've come across, and I'm sure you guys have come across it. Stereotypes. The pressure of, have you ever heard the famous one about, she's aggressive, the way she talks. I use my hands a lot. I'm expressive. I remember I started in my career, and then I remember her saying to me, "You use your hand a lot. Do you have to?" I said, "I'm like, I'm expressing myself." She said, "It's just that sometimes I feel a bit shy." I said, "Well, you better not. It's just the way I said, it's the way I express myself." But we encounter that. Where we get that thing, and then sometimes what happens is it can dim your lights. Somewhere where it's like, I better not be too expressive. They feel that I'm aggressive. So, and then you find people, withdrawing. You find people dimming their light, and no. And then one of the things I learned, when it started, initially I was a bit like, I said to my mom, they said, I'm a bit expressive, but what do I do about it? And I said to myself. When meeting with people, I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to make this work for me. So I turned it around because, but it can do the other way. I'm going to make this work for me. So before they said, look, by the way, I'm quite expressive. You guys will enjoy. I hope you enjoy my hand gestures, but turned it around and used it for my advantage. So it's one of those barriers. And cultural taxation. How many of you are in that situation where being asked to represent all black voices? There's nothing wrong in, being a representative, but when it becomes like I found in my career being the only black person in the room and things like that. Oh, Yvonne, do you want to take on our listening project? Oh, Yvonne, do you want to do this for black people? Oh, do you know, wait, and then becomes a thing where it's like, oh my gosh, so can someone else not do it? So sometimes that's a barrier, and then, on top of all and then you take that on, it doesn't have anything, you take that on with your actual role, you're actually doing all that, and sometimes it's down, it's like, oh my gosh, as much as I want to do this, but no room has been given for you to that you've taken on this extra work and you're doing it with your work. So that cultural taxation. Then this one, earlier in my career for a very long time in HR, tell me if you found that, Jackie. Being the only one in the room.
I've always been the only person.
Only one in the
Every
room.
job.
And
Every
I'm
job.
thinking to myself, goodness me, where's everyone else? Where people like me, being the only one in the room for a long time, it was an issue. I battled with it. Not that I wasn't happy to be there, but I wanted people like me. And I will never forget when I went to a school to do a talk on, building your confidence with these girls and building your confidence, CV workshop and everything. And this black girl came to me and said, how do I become what you are? I want to in the HR. I want to do. I said, you start with your CV. Let's look at what subjects you want to do. And she said, but I've never seen. I don't think I can be that. I can be, and I was like, oh my goodness, But I sat with her, gave her that confidence talk and everything. I actually kept in touch with her. Saw her through her GCSEs, what she needed and things like that. She didn't do HR eventually, but I was so glad to see that she did go further, did something, she did psychology. But, when she came back to thank me, I was so happy that difference, because the story could have been different. So it's like, being the only one in the room. Invisibility, passed over for roles or promotions. Passed over for roles for promotions where I remember my dad telling me when I was coming to this country that one of the things I want you to remember is you have to work twice as hard. And I tell you, that really did make a difference for me. So even when I passed over for promotion, I will work hard. I will work hard to get there. It might have taken my fellow white colleague a lot quicker, but I get there. And I never gave up. But one thing that the new thing now, I tell my daughter, not working twice as hard, working twice as smart. Because things have changed now. So it's working twice as smart. Then hyper-visibility. Every mistake magnified, every success questioned. When you're successful, I'm sure she was good because she was, stats to make up the stats. Having to, question, and you're thinking, why is mine always questioned? Why is my mistake magnified? Meanwhile, someone else has made that mistake. Why is it an issue? So these are the barriers and biases that we face when we're, inclusive leadership. And next slide, please. And it's just knowing them. But one thing that is that there might be those barriers and biases, but we're resilient. We're not going to give up. We will keep on. Inclusive leadership in action. What are the 5 ways to lead inclusively? Model psychology safety. We still talked about that. Create spaces where people can speak without fear. So you were talking about it. We're talking about inclusive leadership now. So we, as leaders here, we want to be inclusive leaders. How do we do that as black women? How do we, the people coming after the young ones? Let's create spaces where people can speak without fear. Leading in your community, leading in your workplace. Sponsor, not just mentor. Use your influence to open doors. Yes, it's good to mentor young people. It's good to mentor young black women. But also, use your influence to open doors. Challenge bias in the system. Use data to disrupt inequity. Whatever it is. Let's be resilient. Let's not be scared. Challenge that bias system. Because when you challenge that bias system, there's somebody else watching you and thinking, oh, she's done that. I can do that tomorrow. Embed restorative practice, lead with dialogue, not discipline. How many of us teach our children differently now? It's like, there's this thing I say with my daughter about being the African mom and the British mom. So I asked her a question. I said to her, I'm African mom 80% and then British mom 20%. That's the whole idea. I'm saying the 20% is because, I'm talking, we're having that dialogue. And then she said, no, mom, you're African mom 95% and 5% British mom. I said, well, at least I've got 5%. But is that the whole idea where you're having that dialogue? It's not just about, when we grew up, it was the restorative practice was actually dealing with discipline. But now it's a bit of both, isn't it? The balance. Just remember, so that the people behind us will see that. And then building coalitions, so important. When you talk about partners partner across race, gender, and power. Which one speaks to you most? Which will you commit to this month? So, 5 ways we lead inclusively. Which one are you going to commit to? Which one do you think you will commit to, guys? Anybody? Thinking about which one would you, or you already do it? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll ask you during the break. Next slide, please.
Yeah, leading with dialogue is something, especially for my kids. I do that a lot because I have 3 girls, and as you know, I grew up in Nigeria all my life. I only came here through marriage.
Yeah.
So all the things, even when I was in Nigeria as a child growing up, I questioned almost everything. I was that rebel everywhere. So before I even got married, I knew exactly how I'm going to raise my children. So my girls, we talk all the time. We have mommy moments. So mommy moments mean one child and the mom. So when each day that I have mommy moments with this person, we talk about you. When it's your turn, we talk about you. Sometimes we do different things. So the way I follow my kids is that I tell them the things I think they're doing very well, and I tell them the areas I think they're not doing very well, and then I challenge them to, tell me how they're going to be able to deal with this, and then I help them to see their strengths, and I help them to see their weaknesses so that they can be able to, align both and see how they can work on the areas of their weaknesses. So, and I also tell them that, see, I trust you. I made them to understand that I trust them. Like, my children get their phones. Once they're in year 6, they have phones. Regulate yourself. I trust you that you're going to go on the platform that I've told you that you should go, and I'm not watching you.
Yeah.
So I give them the power to know that you have to lead yourself. I trust you to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that has paid off.
Yeah.
I have 3 teenagers, and I've never for one day, whether it's school or anywhere, panic that my girls are doing the wrong.
Yeah.
That's how I've raised them.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, inclusive leadership to me is so important. And like what you said, I practice it with my daughter, and I practice it in the workplace. I practice it in my community, and you're a better leader for it. There's no way anyone can tell me I'm different. You are a better leader for it, where you're giving people a space where they can speak without fear, where sponsoring and where you were talking for with your girls. You're raising them to be able to have that dialogue because they will grow up to do what you've done. They will go into the workplace to know that, to do that. So yes, thanks for that. Next slide, please. So also, inclusive leadership means amplifying voices that are often silenced. So we do have voices. We do have people that just sit and go quiet and everything. As a leader, an inclusive leader, you need to be able to amplify voices. Need to know those ones that are silent, that you can actually bring out. Inclusive means amplifying voices that are often silent. And as Black women in leadership, we know what it feels like to be overlooked. So you should be able to use that. Amplifying leaders use their voices, their access, their influence to lift others. So as Black women inclusive leaders, that's what you want to do. Be able to use your amplifying voice to help those that need help. I think your community society, those coming up, what is the impact you're making? Because as an inclusive leader, you definitely make impact. What is the impact that you're making? Next slide. Okay. when you saw legacy, I was like, oh my God, were they reading my mind? So I have your leadership legacy. Legacy is so important. And with leaderships, I have the quote here, which says, legacy is not what I did for myself, it's what I'm doing for the next generation. I love this quote because I'm at an age where I always question myself, what am I doing for the next generation? What am I giving back? That is so key for me, And this bit, Victor Belfort, I love this so much because I use it to remind myself, legacy is not what I do for myself. Because not for how many years and everything. Now, what is it I'm doing for the next generation? So I want you to think about that. What is your leadership legacy? I love this other one. Legacy isn't about titles. Yes, you can have those titles, but it's about impact. Those titles you have, what impact are you making? What difference are you making in society? What difference are you making in those black young girls that come in, those black boys? What difference are you making? What difference are you making? This I'd like you to do before you leave is write a one-sentence leadership legacy statement. This is mine. I lead with courage and compassion to make space for others. What is yours? So when you need to know what is your leadership statement, it's so important because that will remind you of what the difference you want to make. And my last, but not the least slide, I think it is, my closing and commitment card. That's something else for you. I've been talking about inclusive leadership today, right? One action you want to take is, I take to lead more inclusively is. So those 5, you look at those 5 principles I used, which of them do you want to do? For example, say she leads with dialogue. What is yours? Because I lead with dialogue, I lead with compassion, empathy. That's my unit, and the courage. One person I uplift or mentor. So yeah, I've taken up 2 girls that I'm mentoring. In fact, one of them, because I went for an awards last week, and I got an award for HR leadership and transformation. And this girl came up to me. She said, "Oh, please, I want you to mentor me." And then I was thinking to myself, "Oh gosh, I've got so much to do. Oh, I'm not sure if I can take it." The Holy Spirit was saying, "Yeah, you say you want to make an impact, so this is it." So I said to her, "Okay, I'm going to be away. Can I give her my number? Can I just remind me, call me in about 2 weeks' time?" Good, but already I was going to say, "Oh, I'm so busy. The Holy Spirit reminded me. So it's just like, I know it's a challenge. We all have other things we're doing, but try and squeeze that in. It's so different. That impact we want to make, this is where it starts from. So one person I will uplift or mentor. Just think about it. Even if if it is not starting now, but think about it and begin to put that in process, because that's how we make the impact. That's how we make the difference. Okay, and thank you very much.